Hello there, men, and welcome to the Masculinism Movement channel, a place for men to be men and talk about masculinity and men's issues. I'm your host, Brian Crawl, and today I'm going to be mansplaining to you about what the romantic relationship with the female narcissist is like. Now, some of you men might have watched that last video on the types of different sexy, seductive female narcissists out there and thought, well, some of these don't sound so bad. Some of them sound like they might be fun, in the bedroom. And it might be really enjoyable to be seduced by a woman, right? Well, that is a very sad thought of a desperate man, because while the relationship with the female narcissist does begin with seduction and a lot of sexuality, a lot of sexy time, they are only using that seduction and sex with you as part of sexual manipulation. All right. They are using it as a weapon in order to basically extort you. Okay. The female narcissist is only interested in using others. So, sexually speaking, even if she makes herself come off like some sort of pure, sweet, and innocent type of girl, she is only interested in connecting with men sexually and romantically and such in order to exploit them. All right. So the seduction and the sexual manipulation may involve certain pleasures, sure. And, it may be very tempting for us men to indulge in, but you have got to resist temptation, all right? Because it is basically like the cheese on a fucking mousetrap, okay? It is just bait for you, and she is setting up a trap to ensnare you. And many female narcissists may be extremely beautiful and sexy and know how to present in a very seductive manner. Many of them may have been developing a seductive or sexy persona that they use in order to seduce men. Some of them may be very highly adept at sexy talk, things like that are very seductive, especially for men like me who obviously love words. And the narcissist's seduction is very psychological as well. It's not just physical. It's psychological and highly emotional. And they know how to use emotional manipulation to get what they want. And paired with sexual manipulation, when, combining the two into romance, they are extremely powerful with what they do. And a narcissistic female is the type of woman who is going to tell you that they love you, maybe a little bit too soon, but if they are good at what they do, they will be able to make it seem like it's not inappropriately early, and they will start doing what is called love bombing. All right, so this means they're basically going to be showering you with affections and making you feel extremely loved. And it's very difficult for a man to turn this down. I mean, all us men really want is a attractive, sweet girl to love us, right? And who we can love. And when a attractive girl is acting very sweet and seductive with you and starts being very affectionate and romantic and loving and makes herself seem like that girl you've always wanted, it's very hard to say no. And what is really happening here is you are simply in what is called the idealization phase of the relationship, and she is love bombing you in order to seduce you emotionally. And what a woman does in the idealization phase is she tries to make everything seem so ideal and picture perfect. All right, she makes herself seem like the perfect lover and like your dream woman, and she also makes you feel like she thinks that way about you. All right, she's love bombing you, telling you how much she loves you, how in love with you that she is, making you feel like you two have this sort of fairy tale romance, this love story that is just like what you see in the movies. And in order to accomplish this, what the female narcissist will often do is make herself out to be whatever type of girl she thinks she has to be for you to fall in love with her, right? So she's going to say all the right things at the right time, have all of the right answers, oftentimes agree with everything that you say, pretend to like all the things that you like, and be into all the things that you are into. And this is what is called mirroring. All right, so being extremely agreeable and submissive, or supplicating even, pretending to like everything about a person or everything that they like. Stuff like that is mirroring. And then what she will do is basically wear a mask or even have an entirely different avatar that she becomes, where she does this method acting and puts on this theatric performance of pretending to be your ideal girl. And so through this narcissistic manipulation and love bombing, again paired with the sexual manipulation, she is able to create this idealized vision of a reality for both of you two, as having this very ultimate romantic bond. And she might even, claim that you two are soulmates or something like that, which makes sense because that is a very narcissistic thing to say, and it actually describes what is really going on, which is that she's bringing you into the next phase of the relationship with the narcissist, which is codependence and enmeshment. They make you feel like when you are making love together, you are becoming one because you are soulmates and you have such a special bond together. They may even insist at this point that you get married because of the fact that you are already life partners in this ultimate love relationship that you have together. And they are going to do everything that they possibly can to get you codependent with them and to basically break down any sense of independent identity that you have and get you completely enmeshed with their sense of identity, right? They're going to get you thinking in terms of we and using we language instead of I language. They're going to get you thinking about and talking about you guys as a unit rather than separate individuals. And they are going to start to make it so that you are not allowed to have independent ideas and actions, and an independent life from them. They are going to start to take control of not only your life, but your language and your thoughts, and going to start to try to micromanage everything that you say and do, and arguing with you over like all of the little words that you use, right? Trying to turn you into their puppet, basically. All right, this is what happens when you get enmeshed and codependent with a woman, and she'll try to get you to rely upon her for as much as possible. She'll try to especially get you to rely upon her for emotional support, which she provides in her own way. She's not a therapist. She's not really giving you the type of emotional support that you really need and should be getting. It's more of another form of emotional manipulation, right? And what she's basically going to be trying to do is have you become emotionally vulnerable with her and to open yourself up to her emotionally and expose all of your vulnerabilities and emotional wounds and traumas and pain, so that she can do what the next phase of the relationship is, which is exploitation. You see, they may make you think that it is safe to open up to them and start to depend upon them for certain things, emotionally and otherwise, but in actuality, they are only with you to use you to fulfill their wants and needs. And so everything they have been doing is not to set you up with some sort of ultimate pair bond with a partner that you can rely upon when you need them, but the opposite. They are only there to rely upon you for whatever it is that they want and need. And that is going to be more and more and more as time goes on. All right. You're going to find that their wants and needs are exponential, and that they are going to use you more and more and more until you begin to become all used up, which brings you to the next phase of the relationship with a narcissist, which is devaluation and neglect or abuse. Because once the limits of their use of you begin to be reached, and they begin to see that you are no longer as useful to them as they wanted you to be, and are now disappointing them and their lofty, grandiose expectations of you, well, they are going to begin to devalue you. And since you are losing your value, they're going to begin to neglect and even abuse you. And they're going to be doing this abuse often paired with a doubling down of their other manipulation and exploitation efforts to make sure that they can get as much out of you as possible. And once they are sure that they have and that they can't get any more out of you, that leads to the next and final stage of the relationship with the narcissist, which is discarding and ghosting. And that is actually a best case scenario, even though it is extremely heartbreaking and just devastating, honestly, to be so sociopathically just discarded, tossed aside, and then ghosted without any kind of closure or explanation. This is the way that narcissists and sociopaths do. They are not going to treat you with any kind of humanity or empathy or compassion or sympathy when they are breaking up with you. They're going to really break your heart, and they will oftentimes do it not by really tearing you a new one, but by doing the opposite and not communicating with you very much at all. They're not going to tell you that you did anything wrong, because the only thing that you did wrong was to outlive your own value, to be used up. In most cases, you didn't actually wrong them. There's really nothing good for them to say. They're the ones at fault. They're the ones doing you wrong. So, of course, they're not going to want to talk to you about it and communicate about the relationship and how to possibly salvage it, or how they could possibly, give you closure and make this easier for you. Because unless you're dealing with a real sadistic sociopath, they're not going to want to be confrontational with you and have to, see how they are hurting you. So, when they are ending it, they are just going to discard you and ghost you. And you will be lucky if you get any words out of them at all. Anything that could be considered closure that lets you know that it is definitely over is more than many guys get. And you will also be lucky if they leave it at just that and don't actually come back to haunt you after ghosting you, as oftentimes these codependent relationships are basically an addiction, and people will break up and then come back and repeat the entire cycle of abuse over again and get caught up in a vicious circle with a female narcissist. So you have to be really careful about that. And when one breaks up with you, it's best to just leave it at that and make sure that they cannot come back. And just know that they weren't ever going to be the one for you. They weren't ever going to be your life partner who was going to be there for you, until death do you part. Relationships with narcissists are temporary. They do not last very long because narcissists get bored easily and need constant novel stimulation, and also tend to be very needy and to use people up very quickly. So generally speaking, the relationship you'll have with a narcissist will only last a few months. That is generally speaking, and if you are lucky and don't get really seriously addicted to one, all right? And if there is a lot for them to gain out of you, then they may really latch on to you and leech off of you long term in a symbiotic relationship, like we are seeing play out between Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. And if you are unfortunate enough to have made the poor decision to marry a female narcissist, this is probably exactly what is going to happen, at least until they discard you and go on to monkey branch and repeat the pattern with some other guy without giving you a second thought. That is, again, unless they fail at trying to monkey branch and come back to you and you two repeat the entire pattern together, right? But, one way or another, most women these days are narcissistic and follow this type of relationship pattern, which we call serial monogamy. So whether it's with you or someone else, this is what men can expect from the relationship with the female narcissist. It is always the exact same pattern done on repeat over and over and over again. So make sure you do not get caught up in the female narcissist pattern and paradigm, because getting completely used and exploited like that until you are entirely used up and left in ruins without a single care is an extremely dark and torturous experience for a man to have to go through. And I do not wish that on any men out there. I hope that I can save as many men from that fate as possible. So just make sure that you have watched all of my videos on female narcissism, as well as the videos on manipulation tactics and the other videos that I have for you to make sure that you are able to protect yourself from these evil narcissistic bitches. But that concludes this talk. I hope I mansplained that well enough for you guys out there. Thanks for listening, and be sure to share your own thoughts and opinions by commenting below. And if you like this video, be sure to hit that like button and share these messages with everyone by sharing the video on social media and talking about these things too. And lastly, check out the links in the description below for other resources for your masculine personal development and living the life you want to as an independent man. And if you can afford to donate, please do so with the PayPal link below, because your support funds me doing this work and fighting the good fight for men like you. And you can stay tuned for the next video coming out soon, which will be on the topic of the Nawalt and the numbers game, and my whole take on these topics as a former PUA and a social scientist. So make sure you subscribe to be notified when that is. And until then, take care of yourselves, men, because no woman out there is going to.